welcome to another episode of Panel on Panels, the podcast about all things comics and comics related. I'm your host, John Campbell. Next to me, Mike Rigoni.
Hello, John. How's it going?
Joining us as always, Donovan Eilert.
You didn't answer my question.
Yeah, John.
Oh, I'm doing fine.
Skirt by
Okay.
that?
Yeah.
Donovan, how is it going with you?
No need for social graces on here. We're talking about comics.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
wow. There's no social graces in comics?
Donovan, I'm sorry, but
It's fine. Nobody wants to know how I'm doing anyways.
Great, guys. Great banter. So lively. We have such chemistry. Today we are talking about, I don't know how to say it, Kingsman, the Secret Service. Let's call
Yes.
it that. The comic is called just the Secret Service.
or it was.
It was initially published as that.
That's not what the trade. That's not what my trade says.
No, none of them say that now because they
It
want to
says
tie in with the movie.
The Secret Service Kingsman is what the comic.
In fact, my copy has all the actors on the cover of it.
Ooh, weird.
Yeah.
I always don't know how I feel about when books or comic books do that, where they adapt the poster of said movie release for its own.
I don't
did
love
they
it, but
say
it was all that was there at the Barnes & Noble.
Now
I
a
was
major motion picture. And it's like, why does that matter? Am I going
Shouldn't
to
this be
read it?
timeless?
Yeah,
Well, that's a selling
exactly.
point. I mean, the idea is that it's the selling point of like, oh,
It's
there's
like
gonna
you're
be
going to
movie
a
of this.
bookstore and you're like, hey, I'm looking for the Secret Service. And the comic book person's like, I don't know. Let's look for it.
Now
And
based on a major motion picture.
Oh, that seal. Now I know
that
I
one.
found it.
Yeah.
Well, actually, if you go to like a Barnes & Noble or something, they now just have sections called like on the screen or something like that, or at the
Really?
movies. Yeah.
That's the
There.
most lazy approach to a bookstore ever. It's like, I don't want to look. I don't want
Barnes
to.
and Noble being lazy
I'm
about
just-
how
I-
they.
They're
Well,
trying to
advertise
sell
their stuff.
books,
I'm
Donovan.
sure they're not the only one, but
No,
people
no,
are
no,
like,
I'm sure
I
they're not.
only
The
want
fact
to
that they
read.
still exist is a small testament to what they were able to accomplish.
It's
When we
impressive.
start our bookstore podcast, we can talk
You
about
wonder how
the
much they make on
business genius of-
candles at Barnes and Noble. They have a
Enough.
huge candle section.
Actually, I'll tell you, who's not to get us fully off track.
No, you're fine, John.
Textbooks.
Yeah, no,
how
that's
they've
the
done it.
racket.
That's how they've done it.
Really? And
Yeah, they
even
got
with
into
things
that.
like Amazon doing textbooks, they're
Yeah, they're still doing all right from that because none of the like you wonder why Borders failed and stuff because Barnes and Noble got all the textbook deals.
What
and stuff.
failed now?
What?
Who?
Borders?
What?
Yeah.
that's
was
so
this?
long ago in the
You
past.
want to go even further back? B. Dalton Books.
I don't. Even,
I remember B.
You don't
Dalton
know-
books.
Warden Books. You know,
Ugh,
Yeah,
you know
I don't
these
even.
places?
Yeah,
These
yeah.
were like in malls and stuff. They all became Barnes and Noble.
A what, John? Mall.
A mall is like it's like an online shopping store,
It's like-
but you go there in person instead of via
Weird.
your computer.
I just get a magazine and just order whatever I want out of there.
Yes.
A catalog.
I've been
I
doing
go to the
Sky Mall
over
for
phone.
years.
I get a Sears catalog and I order over phone. Yes,
Or you mail in the little
The,
thing
the
and you
problem
write in
is
the
they
numbers
can never
of what you want.
they can never hear me correctly. So instead of saying B15, it's D15, and I'm getting ladies' underwear, which is
Hey,
very
exactly
strange.
what you ordered.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Let's-
it is
let's
now. I'm not
hide
going to tell
things.
anybody that it's not.
It was an accident.
I didn't want to
said
say
the
that I
wrong
made a
thing.
mistake. Yeah, I'm too prideful for that.
So today we are talking about a comic and the subsequent film adaptation of that comic.
Yes.
The comic is by Mark Millar and Dave Gibbons, who
Though scripted by or helped storied.
yeah,
for?
the credit
I
is
don't know.
co-plotted by Matthew
Co-plotted,
Vaughn,
sure.
who co-wrote and
So he
directed
sat
the movie.
around and said, "Wouldn't it be cool if blank?"
Yeah, I mean, basically, I was listening to an interview with him where he said he and Mark Millar were having lunch, and they were talking about something like, "Do you remember when spies used to be cool?"
Matthew Vaughn, for those who don't know, is the guy who would end up directing the or writing,
Yeah, co-writer and director. of the
co-writer
film.
and director of the film. Yeah.
He also co-wrote and directed Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class.
Yes.
Amongst other movies, but those would be the ones probably.
Just first class.
No, yeah, just First Class.
Yeah.
He did produce Days of Future Past as well, and developed a lot of the script
Wow,
in the early stages. But he made this movie instead of Days of Future Past, actually.
So I guess one of the big reasons we bring up these particular comic book movie pair is, well, A, it's topical, and B, because it's such a weird thing to have a comic book and a movie. I guess it's not weird at this point because of what happened with Kick-Ass, but
Yeah, Kick-Ass was kind of developed parallel.
how they're developed kind of simultaneously.
I
by
mean,
these
even at a certain
creative-
point, Scott Pilgrim was like that as
It's
well,
true,
but
yeah.
down the stretch. Kind of similar to Kick-Ass, where
'Cause Scott Pilgrim
near
wasn't-
the end of it
wasn't
got,
done by the time the movie came out.
So they were developing the end of the story side by side, basically.
They feel very tight that way then too. A
Yeah.
lot. I felt Kingsman, the movie, and the comic book, they changed a lot, but still the tone felt very tight.
Yeah, no, they're very much of a whole in the same way that Kick-Ass. They're very similar adaptations, and there are lots different in the Kick-Ass movie.
In that the same creative teams are involved.
No, but I mean, I'm saying in that both have changed a lot,
Yeah.
but they still feel very much of a whole, and in that spirit of
there's an essence there that is translated really well.
Right, that Mark and you could, whether it's a Mark Millar voice or a Matthew Vaughn voice, I don't know.
It's a combination of the two. That's what kind of makes it great. I guess.
They seem to fit together very well with one another. It works,
Yeah.
I guess, and people see it. I mean, it's doing
because
well.
I mean, I guess we can say right up front that Kingsman movie and comic book, thumbs up all around.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
they're
think
both
so.
really good.
Yeah.
For sure. And he was talking about, like I said, Matthew Vaughn talked about a time when spies were cool. I mean, there's definitely a throwback sensibility here.
Sure. I felt like we got a little bit of that in Skyfall, like when he's coming onto the train, he like pops the cuff.
Yeah, I think Skyfall is starting to return to that.
Yeah, and this is definitely a continuation of that idea.
Yeah, which is interesting. It's something I want to bring up. I was just reading an article in Entertainment Weekly the other day called it's something like it's called Guardians of the Galaxy and Kingsman: The Return of Fun Action Movies. Which is, I think, an interesting thing to talk about, which is action movies have gotten kind of dark and pretty dour.
Thanks, Batman.
I mean, really, Chris Nolan he's probably not solely responsible, but him and then Doug Liman, who made Bourne Identity.
Oh, yeah.
Those two things definitely set, or even a show like 24 as well. As good as, I love all these things. But it seems like, once this kind of was popular, then everyone glommed onto this idea of like, oh, dark heroes, dark tortured heroes, no jokes, no.
Then we got
anything.
Man of Steel.
What about things like Transformers? And
There have been things that have eked through, because I think Transformers very much. I mean, like it or not, it's not a dark franchise.
Well, I
Definitely in
mean,
the
one of
not
the
camp,
movie
but-
titles has dark in it. Does that count?
That's true. That's true. And that was the darkest. No. That was Revenge of the Fallen. That was the darkest, truly the darkest chapter of that franchise.
Can we just break off for a second and talk about how John has seen all the Transformers movies and enjoyed them all?
Yeah, the second one the least, but yeah, I like all of them. The fourth one the most, actually.
Huh.
Really?
Yeah, I really like
With
the fourth
Marky
one.
Mark?
Yeah, I think
have
that's
not
the.
seen that
I think
one.
that's
all
the
these Transformers.
I think I found a Transformer. Yeah, we can do a whole podcast about Transformers someday, and I
I'm
can
sure
talk
we
to you
will.
about how awesome
Let's
those
do it.
movies are. But I think those movies have kept a semblance of fun, and I think the Fast and the Furious franchise has also kept fun action movies alive as well with their utter insanity.
Is that just a complete and utter disregard for what intelligence is, or is that an actual attempt to make a fun movie? Because I feel like Kingsman is a really fun movie, but also maintains its own logic and intelligence.
I think the Fast and the Furious movies maintain their own logic within themselves.
Sure,
And
yeah.
it's
It's a
interesting that-
completely insane logic.
Yeah, it's
but
interesting that they say Guardians of the Galaxy is
yeah.
the beginning, because I felt like the Avengers. I mean, the Avengers is not that dark.
no, it's not.
It's fun.
I mean, I think the Marvel movies in general, but I think have had that. But I think that the Guardians of the Galaxy to me is the epitome of this. I mean, that's a real fun time.
It's
and
goofy.
It's. I mean, there's.
Or you even look at
there's-
Iron Man 3 as compared to Iron Man 1 and 2. Like Iron Man 3 is, I mean, we have a couple of friends who would justifiably say that movie is almost more of a comedy than it is anything else.
I mean, it's got that Shane Black vibe
Yeah.
that he popularized with movies like Lethal Weapon and stuff. Yeah, I think for sure. And I think you can look at like Iron Man kind of maybe open that door a little bit back to fun, because that came out the same year as The Dark Knight.
Did it really?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and two polar opposites of kind of comic book movies there. But I think Iron Man.
Actually, John, they're both about rich billionaires going out and dispensing justice
have
in a way
suits
they see
that
fit.
help
They-
them.
Well, we
they
could
have
talk about
suits.
similarities of the characters.
They both have black friends.
Yeah.
I was talking more tonally, but sure. But I think Iron Man cracked that door open, and then Marvel's been slowly pushing it, and then
they just kicked it open with
Guardians, yeah. And then I think
Maximum Ooga Chaka.
Kingsman then just stepped right through that. Into,
And I mean, obviously, it's not come out yet, but you look at the trailer for Age of Ultron, and I don't think it's going to be as funny and as much of a romp as.
it looks dark.
So I don't know the comment saying like the return of fun action movie.
I think there's a sense that it's coming back. I mean, that's
Interesting.
And I don't think it should be an all or nothing kind of thing.
Sure, because there's definitely a place for the serious
but
action film.
that's taken over for a while, and I like seeing that these, because the movies we grew up on were stuff like Indiana Jones, which always kept a sense of fun. Maybe not Temple of Doom so much.
Yeah, there were other problems with that movie, but yeah.
Short Round was there. He's funny, right?
I think he was supposed to be funny. That feels in that Jar Jar camp of a George Lucas.
Again, I
sense
feel
of
like this is a
funny.
super long play where we eventually see the Indiana Jones movie where Short Round comes back as the bad guy.
We've talked about
That would be so awesome.
You left me to die, Dr. Jones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would be totally on board with that, and that would justify his whole presence in Temple of Doom. I would look at that movie a whole new way. But no, I think we're starting to see a return to that. We have Abrams' Star Trek also. I feel like brought some of that fun back of that like '80s action movie.
Maybe the first one. I don't know about Into Darkness.
Into Darkness is pretty brutal.
But it still
And the
has
first
a lot
one's
more
pretty
fun
brutal.
than any,
I
than
don't
any,
feel
like
like
Nolan
it's
movie.
it's not having nearly as good a time as something like Kingsman. Because
No. I mean, not
Are we
like
talking
that.
about Kingsman today? Is that
We
what
are talking about
Okay,
Kingsman.
I just wanted to make
we
sure.
got off on a little bit of tangent,
Well,
but
I think it leads into
Sure,
one
yeah,
of the
yeah,
things
yeah.
that Kingsman is deliberately a throwback.
oh, it totally.
I mean, like, and specifically to my personal favorite era of Bond, which is the '70s Bond.
yes,
The more.
Yeah, the Roger Moore era
Yeah.
Bond. We've never really talked about Bond on the podcast too much, but I mean, yeah, I
Are
maybe
there
have
Bond comic books? I don't know. Probably.
no. Yeah, IDW just got the license to
So
them.
there will be
There
soon.
will
License
be, there
to
will
kill?
Be, yeah, they got the license to
Oh.
kill. There have been. There's a really interesting collection of Bond comics you can read from the '60s that are just straight adaptations of the Fleming novels. They're all black and white. They're pretty interesting to look at.
I would love to see IDW do kind of what they did with Star Trek, where you take the
Classic.
you
Bond
take the
movie.
classic Bond movies and put
Daniel
Daniel Craig's Bond in those situations.
Daniel Craig
and like,
fighting Goldfinger.
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
That would
you
be
know,
interesting.
That would end very quickly. There wouldn't be as much talking, I don't think.
He just snaps his neck.
Just snaps his
Well,
neck.
clearly you have to twist them a little bit to fit the modern aesthetic, but
Yeah, I mean, but I think what you're talking about is indicative of what this movie is kind of about, which is Bond doesn't quip nearly as much. I was reading an article that was talking about. I think in that same article they talked about like kids used to want to be James Bond.
sure.
I don't want to be Daniel Craig.
Well, there was that excellent line in the Kingsman movie actually, where they were Colin Firth and Samuel L. Jackson were having some witty repartee over dinner.
Which I love. I love
Yeah.
a good witty repartee.
Which actually, before we get into this, I think we have to come out and
I was
say,
just gonna say.
full and total spoiler
Yes,
alerts for
yes.
the comic and
If
the
you
movie.
have not read or seen the movie, you should stop right
Yeah.
now.
Read
And
the
then-
movie, see the comic book.
Yeah.
And then listen to this with
Yes.
your eyes.
So we'll give you a second to do that now. Okay.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
How
Good,
was it?
right? Good, yeah.
it was
Pretty good.
Surprisingly
You look a
fun.
little
good
older.
time.
You have
Yeah.
a beard now?
Yeah.
That's good. It looks good on you.
dignified.
It's nice.
Peppered gray. You're showing your age.
So you're saying the witty repartee between Mr.
Samuel
Firth and Mr.
Jackson, yeah. Well, they were exchanging like basically a breakdown of those old Bond
Yeah.
movies, and that was a great little nod towards just like this is exactly what's going on in this film.
There's a self-awareness in this movie that's not actively breaking the fourth wall, which I
Right.
liked.
No one's literally winking at the camera, but there's plenty of winks at stuff in film history.
Yeah.
That have brought us to this moment.
It's aware of the canon of spy movies because they exist as movies in this
Yes.
world. But the world itself is very real and legitimate, which I think is cool. I mean, like the organization, the Kingsman. I mean, I think that's a big difference as we sort of get into these between the comic and the agency in the comic is just like it could be MI6, it could be
Sure.
Her Majesty's Secret
He
Service.
says MI6 at one point, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's just the standard kind of spy service. They're not even called Kingsman in the comic, are they?
No.
I don't believe so.
Right.
not.
So that's interesting that Kingsman is scrawled all over the front of that comic as I look at it.
Well,
Gotta
now
put
we
a brand
know.
on it, John.
Yeah, we got to brand it. But I really like the Kingsman organization. It feels more in that,
Especially in the
old Bond
movie where
style.
it's just like they are a secret service organization, not necessarily associated with any government. They're definitely British.
oh
Well,
they're,
and
they're very. This whole movie is very British.
And one thing
In a
I mean,
great way, though.
I
Oh, in
didn't
the
know
best way,
when
yeah.
we're going to bring this up, but in the comics you don't get this. But all the references to the Knights of the Round Table,
Right, they all-
is so cool.
No,
like
exactly.
that's a nerdy reference in and of itself. That all these agents have, Lancelot,
no, I feel like the movie
Percival.
does.
Percival Merlin is great because he's the tech guy, he's the wizardy. Like that was that was amazing.
Yeah, and the head of the agency is called Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
I think the movie does a better job of building its own world than the comic, in the sense that the comic is sort of doing a heightened version of the real agencies. This is its own complete world of fiction that they've created, this agency and all the rules and background and
Right.
stuff of it.
And I got a definite sense that in the movie we got to spend a lot more time. I don't know about more time, but more intimate time with the main character, Eggsy.
Eggsy, yeah.
Just like his struggles going through the training and like his cohabitation with the other guys trying to become super spies.
Yeah.
Whereas in the comic book, we're kind of just we get a little bit of that, but at a certain point, it's just and he did all the training, and he's done now.
Right. The comic moves at a much faster clip, and I felt this way about Kick-Ass too. Not Kick-Ass 2, Kick-Ass TOO.
Right.
Kick-Ass as well. I think comics just move at a faster rate.
It's interesting
at least in these Millar
I feel like in the
comic
books
comics.
we get a longer time span per se, but
yes,
it still feels like it's moving faster, which is weird. I feel like the movie doesn't take place over as much literal time, but it takes time to breathe and show progression of characters that we don't necessarily get in the comic.
I think that's very true because comics are very specifically dictated. They're 22 pages an issue over 6 issues.
Right.
Almost nobody breaks this trend. I mean, there are smaller runs and stuff like that, or 12-issue runs.
Right.
But for the most part, if you're writing a miniseries, you're going to do 6 22-page issues.
Right.
So it's very dictated and rigid, where a movie can be we'll spend 20 minutes here, and then we'll spend a half hour doing this, and we'll do this for 5 minutes, and we can...
I mean, there's
more stuff we can cut away to the villain for a section, and they do a little bit of... I get a much better sense of the villain. All the characters, really, actually, in the movie, I have a better sense of than I did in the comic.
The only person I would say is different is the... Well, I don't know what to call him because he's different, but the Galahad character, the Colin Firth.
Yeah.
In the comic, you follow him a lot more than you do in the movie.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. You get all of his side missions, and he's in China, and he's got that flying car.
There's that chunk of the movie where he's in a coma.
He's in a coma, and he doesn't get to be in a coma in the comic.
I think he does more in the comic, but I get a better sense of who he is in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just Colin Firth.
Well,
who is dreamy and we love.
I mean, I think they're certainly having a great actor in that role. Really brings it to life in a way, but there's also, like you're saying, there's just more quiet moments between characters. I mean, one of the huge differences is that in the comic, he's his uncle.
Yes.
And in the movie, he is just an agent who had worked with his father.
Owed his father a life debt.
Right, because his father, the opening scene of the movie is his father saving Colin Firth's life.
And I think that adds a little bit more to the relationship as opposed to... In the comic book, you just see is you're a member of my family. I don't want to see you throwing your life away. This is more it starts out as kind of I knew your father.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to do what he did a little bit kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But then there feels like a much more father-son relationship in the movie than we ever get in the comic.
Definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
And something that Matthew Vaughn mentioned in an interview as well, that one of the reasons he changed it was that he liked the idea of it being, and they name-check these movies, Trading Places, Pretty Woman, My Fair Lady.
That part was great.
There's
There's a third one. Or there's a fourth one. Trading Places? Nikita.
Yes, it's La Femme Nikita. But he talked about that in all of those to have, because in the comic the uncle character had a similar background and then became a secret agent.
Yeah.
Matthew Vaughn liked it better that it was even more impossible for this guy. That he really is
the
first
street
kid to become a super agent spy.
But I like that bit in the comic book though, where it's just well, I did it, so this kid should be able to do it too.
Right, but I mean, but it's directly because of that.
Right.
He was let's really make it nobody's ever done this. And they all come from this great breed of whatever.
But you got
aristocrats.
Yeah,
you got
exactly.
the sense
and you see that with the douchey rich kids who are the other.
I loved it when the super douche showed up at the end.
Yes, that was
well,
great.
and they never get redeemed. In the comics, they get redeemed a bit because even though they're kind of the sloppy seconds, they help to save the world at the end.
They do.
And in the movie, they fail a test and they go home, and then, like Gorgoni said, you see one at the very end
who ends up being a villain.
who ends up being
Sort
a
of,
villain.
for half a second.
He's villainous.
Yeah.
He's important though, because he's the only one that can recognize
Right.
him, Eggsy, so quickly.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about the comic versus the movie is you get the sense that the Colin Firth character in the comic has been watching Eggsy his entire life.
Yes.
Whereas in the movie, it almost felt like, well, he called in this favor, and maybe I'll check in to see how he's doing. Oh, he's got good grades, and he's got this, and I wonder what's going on.
And they mentioned that he had briefly tried to be in the Marines. Yeah, so I mean, they lay the groundwork that he has some of the requisite skills that you would need, and you see the opening car chase with the police.
Oh, that was
where you see he's got some skills.
Right.
Yeah,
when he's driving backwards through traffic, that was pretty sweet.
Where in the comics he plays Call of Duty.
Yeah,
It's kind of his.
I'm actually really happy they didn't do that stuff because that feels very like, oh, this nerdy kid knows how to do this because of video games, and I refuse to believe that there's any correlation there.
Sure. I'm a cold,
unless you're a
cold-hearted
drone
assassin.
pilot.
Yeah.
I think you could recognize guns based from a video game. There,
Yes, actually, that part in the comic I did like when he knew all the weapons because of video games. That actually did.
But then
make sense.
that doesn't translate.
But that didn't translate to he would be able to
assassinating
use
people.
said weapons.
right.
Yeah, there's also the organization seems a little bit more altruistic before you find out about the corrupt Michael Caine stuff. In the comic, when they just send him out to like murder people, they don't
Yeah.
do that in the movie, and
No,
I'm
no.
okay with that.
We'll see how he does on his first assassination. I believe is a line in the comic.
Yes, yeah, and they have to go out and murder some like drug dealers.
And it's and it's not even like a major crime thing. It's just like, well, the neighborhood's better off without this guy, so might
yeah,
as
but
well
it's
just
yeah,
go
it's
in.
very like when I read that, I was like, ooh, I don't really like this Secret Service. And also there's a part where they have to seduce, which I like the play on that here. There's a part where they have to seduce someone
Right.
in the comic as well. And in this, they use that as a front to do a loyalty test thing, which I also really liked, where they tied him to the train tracks and tried
Literally tying them to the.
they
train
literally tied him to the train tracks, and I thought that was a cool bit, and a lot cooler than just making them sleep with somebody.
You know what I would have wanted in the movie though was like a nice training montage. There's like a few brief things you see him train,
tracks. Like the whole second act was a montage.
yeah, but it wasn't. It was like here's a scene, and then I want music and I want like scenes.
You want gonna have a montage?
Yeah.
montage.
I want
You're the
exact.
best around.
I want exactly what you get in Mulan
Oh,
when you got you've got
make
that.
a
Let's
man out of-
get down.
That's
to
exactly what I
business.
want. In
Yeah,
fact,
yeah.
they could use that song. I wouldn't
defeat
mind.
I don't think
Sam
they would.
Jackson.
And then yes,
I don't know, but
Sam
what
Jackson.
what you get instead of that is an extended second act
It's
training.
true.
The whole second act is a training sequence, and I mean, aside from the stuff with Samuel Jackson and Colin Firth, and you get cool set pieces, full set pieces. The Halo jump scene
That was super
is
cool.
really cool. I mean that, and I mean, so as much as I like the nostalgia of like an '80s style
Yeah, no, I'm just-
montage, you really get to spend
just
time with
part
the
of my heart.
characters.
This is going to be a first. Is John not repping for some kind of '80s throwback?
Yeah, ladies and
well, the whole
gentlemen, this
movie's
does
a
not happen.
'70s throwback,
Sure.
so I'm okay with it.
So long as we go further back, it's fine.
Well, and it's something I think worth mentioning is this movie is just over 2 hours long.
Yeah,
and
right
I
about
feel
that.
like it was and I don't ever say this, I think it was the perfect length.
Yeah, there's no waste.
solid, yeah.
There's no wasted space in the movie. I thought,
And
there was
there's
no
nothing
part.
you rush through too much.
It doesn't drag, and it didn't feel like they, didn't do, like left something on the table where it's like, I really would have liked to have known more about that. There's nothing I feel. I mean, I've seen the movie twice now, and both I'm just like, solid.
no, it's solid.
well constructed. I mean, Matthew Vaughn and his co-writer Jane Goldman, who also wrote Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class with him. They're just excellent writers, really. I mean, they are efficient.
I would be
and-
interested to see like one of their earlier drafts, just to see like,
Mm-hmm.
is there a cutting of the fat here, or are they just that solid in terms of knowing like precise character beats and precise? Like,
I mean, one of the
writing?
benefits they have is the comic, of course.
That's true.
I mean, in that there's something they.
But we've already said this movie is like
No, but it's
different enough to where
It's easy. It's easier to adapt when there's at least a starting thing,
Sure.
and then you can extrapolate from
You
that.
have the
More of
spine
this,
of it,
less of
yeah.
that. Change this, flip that. At least in my experience, what little screenwriting I've done, and I've done a couple. But I've adapted
Sure,
a couple of
sure,
things,
sure,
and
yeah.
it's an interesting process, and it's a lot easier. It's hard in other ways, but I mean, in that sense of building your structure, you have something to react to, whether you choose to go with this or go against it.
And something that we've as friends in a group have talked about before is if an adaptation keeps the right tone, you can add stuff, you can take stuff, you can change aesthetic. But they definitely
yeah.
add things like the whole dog bit about like
They add a lot, actually.
and but it works really well, and it adds to the emotion of the characters.
Yeah.
That makes them more sympathetic. It shows you the agency more, and kind of how they're flushed
in
out.
a movie, you need more things to follow, things to track, and things like the dogs do that very well. In a way that the comic can just kind of skate over time passing and stuff. Like you were saying, more time passes in the comic because they're able to just kind of go here to here to
Right,
here,
right.
as opposed to the movie has to draw out a timeline a little bit more,
Yeah.
and having things like the dogs. So they start as puppies, and then by the end of it, you see they're older.
Which,
even
can I say, the fact that he chose a pug was like my favorite part of the movie.
And
Not gonna lie.
that
You do love
thought was
pugs.
I do love pugs.
So yeah, that's
the bulldog line was pretty great too.
yeah, it was really
Isn't
funny.
it a bulldog?
And actually, that scene. One of the things I really like is the female agent character that they play no romance between them.
There's no romance in the with the exception
No. I
of
mean, but there's no
the very
formal romantic subplot in this movie
at all.
Right.
Yeah,
At
I mean,
all, at all.
which
I was sure that was a surprising. I'm not going to say twist, but it is a twist considering all of in most movies these days you're going to have some kind of
Well, and I
romance.
felt
I mean,
like-
just in most movies ever.
yeah.
They switched the gazelle character from a man to a woman in the movie, and I thought, oh, that's
Well,
gonna be
what
for...
they kind of did was they combined his like girlfriend character and the character of Gazelle from the comics into something that I think worked really, really well.
But she's not romantic in the movie.
I think there's
hints
something
of
going on.
something.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like
No.
it doesn't move the plot along at
Sure.
all.
There's
Yeah.
definitely
There's an affection, but that could be all kinds of things.
I mean, the way those actors play it is they play an affection between the two that I read as romantic.
Yeah.
I mean,
There
would
was
not
a
be...
butt slap or two that I was like, I know what's going
Well,
on.
and then
There's a butt
there's a
slap.
scene near the end of the movie where she goes to protect him and she like cradles his face beforehand.
that was more like $1 million baby kind of situation. That's what I always go for.
yeah.
now.
Well, he had to pull the plug.
If
on her at
anything, the
too,
end of this
so,
movie was a lot like $1 Million Baby.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I wanted you to say.
Morgan Freeman started narrating it.
I was going to say they both end in butt stuff, but yeah.
That's true. That's very true.
That may be the difference between you and I's sense of humor. No, I think I really like the change of Gazelle. Gazelle makes more sense to me as like a lithe woman as opposed to he's kind of a larger guy in the
comic book.
Yeah, but he's also like slicing. He's not doing the flips and stuff. The
Right.
Gazelle doesn't do that much in the comic, really.
I kills a couple of people.
Yeah, but not.
Is he the one that
like
assassinates the bride on the beach?
Yes,
Okay.
with a sniper rifle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not even using the. I mean,
But
to me,
I just want to make sure he was using the same.
Gazelle
people.
is also maybe the most Bondian kind of character. That's a classic henchman.
I feel like more New Age Bond. than
No,
old.
if anything, like the oldest of them. I mean, she feels like a direct descendant of Oddjob or like a Jaws, any of those kind of things. Even going back to
Maybe.
Dr. No with his mechanical
hands.
Yeah,
I don't know. Felt more Brosnan era, but that's just probably. Just
I feel
me.
like in the Brosnan era though we saw much less of the mechanized people or the deformed henchmen and stuff.
Do you think so?
I think so. We saw there were henchmen, but they were just kind of guys. I mean, like
That's
the guy in
true.
Tomorrow Never Dies is just a torture expert. I mean, Onatop uses her legs to kill people, but they're not. They're just legs.
As
Gold.
opposed
They're
to
not
these
just.
awesome
they're
sword
not
legs.
just legs, John. I've seen that movie.
They are legs.
Yes.
True, but they are human legs. Is what I'm saying.
Well, maybe the jury's still out on that one.
We're still running tests. No, but that's what I'm saying. So I think that this heightened, crazy, over the top world where somebody could have blades for legs.
What I really liked is that throughout the entire movie, nobody commented on it.
Not once.
Not once.
Nope.
Did anyone go, "What is up with her legs?"
No,
like
and
she's
she's not-
talking to dignitaries.
She's not
and-
hiding them
No.
ever.
But I think
There's one part where she's like wearing a dress and then she like tears it off. And
But
she's
I
got
saw
the
that
lotion
as just a skirt that she was
Yeah.
going to be easier to run. It wasn't high. If
she's
you
still
look
in the
down at her
skirt.
feet, you would see,
Yeah.
every time she walked, you could hear the clanking on the ground of the legs.
But she wears a dress the whole time when she's fighting, doesn't she? Or those
no,
pants?
those are pants.
Yeah.
Those are
Okay.
pants.
I didn't pay too much
Yeah, I
attention
mean,
to.
like by the end of the movie
her
when she's fighting
fashion.
Eggsy and stuff.
I mean, that makes more sense. I just
Yeah, and that woman is a dancer who does have legs.
and I felt like though the reason people never said anything is because she's a pretty imposing presence.
Definitely.
And also Samuel L. Jackson's a pretty strange person that is probably very distracting.
One
as
of the things I
well.
loved about Samuel L. Jackson's performance is that he does play it like a nerd. Because if you read the comic, you're like, well, how is Samuel L. Jackson going to play this like weird kind of nerdy character? No, he totally does it.
nails it.
He really, I mean, the character is kind of similar to the way he is in
like
the book.
when he kills the guy, it's just like, no, that was awful.
Yeah. He can't stand the sight of blood. At the beginning, after Gazelle kills all the agent comes in and kills all the guys, and then she slices the guy in half, and she has to put towels over all the things before Samuel L. Jackson come in because he can't stand the sight of blood.
Which can we talk about Mark Hamill for a little
Yes.
bit?
Yes.
Yes.
Great
I wanted to
cameo
get
in
Because
this
of course,
movie. it wouldn't even be a cameo. He's like
he's a supporting. Yeah, he's
supporting actor.
He was like fifth on the roster of names. I felt like.
well, and I think that has to do with the fact he's Mark Hamill, probably more than his
Oh,
part. But
BT
he
Dubs,
definitely-
we got Luke Skywalker.
He does
Yeah.
have two key scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Because in the comic, the character is a science fiction obsessed. The villain is a
Yes.
science fiction obsessed nerd, And
at the beginning of the book, he literally tries to kidnap Mark Hamill.
Yeah, because he's in the movie, and I think this also makes more sense. I mean, it's fun. The nerd references are fun in the book, but the idea that he's taking like dignitaries and politicians,
And he was doing that as well in the comic books.
Yes,
But he was
But
also making sure to save all of his
The people who make
heroes.
Star Wars and Star Trek and Doctor Who.
right.
And I feel like
Whereas, so in that sense, he literally is Mark Hamill. But I like that Vaughn was clever enough to we'll just cast Mark Hamill as a character a character who is in the comic, the climate change scientist,
Professor Arnold.
Yeah,
he's
who gives he has a different name too. The villain in the comic, doesn't he? Because in the movie, his name is Richmond Valentine. I don't think that's the case in the comic
case as well.
if I'm not mistaken.
And I felt
'Cause
like
almost all the names are different.
Is it
except
too
for
bold to
Eggsy.
say that Mark Hamill, this was his best theatrical part in a while? I mean, he was in the last season of Chuck briefly.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I honestly couldn't tell you what the last thing I remember Mark Hamill being in besides the Arkham games.
He plays. Well, I mean, this is before that, but he played Cockknocker in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Oh, good. Yeah. I'm glad that's the last thing I remember him in.
yeah, I think. I mean, this was. I mean, I know we're going to get
Yeah, I mean, Chuck
Star
is
Wars
the last
this
thing
year,
I
which
remember
we're all
seeing.
very excited for Star Wars. Obviously,
He primarily does voice work. And
He
he does.
but
theater
this
as well.
is a great. I mean, this is a great piece for him.
It's a fun little character part too. I mean, he gets to play sort of a nebbishy, British professor character.
which I thought was great. Great bow tie, by the way.
Fantastic bow tie.
Excellent bow
And a
tie
tweed
work in
jacket
this
and
movie.
stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, it is
very professory.
It's a very fun little part for Mark Hamill.
But what we were talking about is the change of the movie being from sci-fi nerdy things to politicians.
Yeah.
I said right before we started recording that I felt that this movie was a better movie than the comic would have been had it been adapted straight.
Right.
And I think one of the big things is if you're picking up and reading a comic, all nerdy references are fair game because somebody who's reading a comic probably has the toes in other brilliant nerdy pools. Like they they know what Star Trek is.
Yeah.
I would guess they know who William Shatner is.
I mean, if he had been Mark Hamill, everyone knows who Mark Hamill is.
Everybody knows who Mark Hamill is, but it very quickly moves to other references.
I mean,
that
there's a
think-
Red Dwarf reference in here,
which is awesome. I'm
is
a
awesome.
huge Red Dwarf fan
but
for anybody who's
not only is
listening.
that nerdy, it's also super British.
It's yes, exactly.
Because we have to keep everyone making this is from the UK.
Oh, yeah.
No one involved. I don't think there, other than Samuel Jackson, really, are there any Americans involved in this thing? I mean, Mark Hamill. I mean,
yeah.
a few cast members, but all the creative people are Matthew Vaughn's British, Jane Goldman's British, Mark Millar's Scottish, Dave Gibbons is British. This is, I mean, one of the concerns Matthew Vaughn was talking about in the same interview I was reading with him was maybe the movie was too British so he started test screening it here in America to see, is this too British?
If there's one thing we Americans enjoy, it's a British accent. Regardless of
And a
circumstance.
British spy movie specifically.
yeah.
They're better than English or American spy movies. What is a? I mean, you're going to compare James Bond to
Bourne.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's our
So-
or Mission Impossible.
Sure.
I feel like Ethan Hunt is maybe a closer James Bond type.
You think so?
But are those as good as the Bond movies?
That's what I'm saying. Is
I'm
there
good with no.
no?
There's a certain class. There's a certain,
Sure. Yeah.
like,
Well, they also say that the idea of the gentleman spy.
Right.
The Brits have that taken care of. We don't. We do the badass spy.
but the gentleman spy can be so badass while being classy as fuck.
Oh, yeah,
Like
yeah,
what I
yeah.
wanted to say through this whole movie, despite other people in the theater, was like, "Holy shit, that's classy as fuck! Holy shit, that's classy as fuck!"
Absolutely.
I like
You've earned us our explicit
The
tag. Thank you.
food and wine pairings from McDonald's. I thought that was
That's
awesome.
all those the scenes between Colin Firth and Samuel Jackson are just scream those classic Bond things. They're like the way they're testing each other in this way, and they know who each other are.
Subtly probing each other with dialogue that's not explicitly about what we're talking about, but it's what we're
Well, I
talking
love the thing
about.
where he sends him to the haberdasher, and it starts with lock, and he goes, "Locks like the fish." He's like, "No, like locked up."
Yeah, and I love that was a front to get him a hat that they could listen to and track him.
yes.
That was.
Can we talk
great
about
bit.
Samuel Jackson in a top hat?
Oh, great!
Oh.
Everything I've wanted.
Wasn't he say this is a dope ass top hat?
Yeah, it is. I really just wanted to you're right, Sam. It is.
Yeah.
And you're right.
Excuse me, Mr. Jackson. He's wearing a top hat now.
Yeah.
That whole movie, though,
Mr.
like you
L.
said, is
Jackson.
very posh. Is very. It feels very refined.
And there's
Yes.
something that we don't necessarily like. Earlier, we were talking about the dark action movie.
Yes.
And I feel like you can't be this classy and have this dark, gritty action movie.
Men that
we've
classy
had.
aren't dark, and dark
Right.
guys aren't classy. Like
Statham can't do both.
Statham's not classy. Statham is very much a product of the newer kind of. I mean, that's something that people talk to. I've heard so many people talk about, like Colin Firth and an action thing. Colin Firth, I don't
He
understand
can
this.
do anything.
But the thing is, I'm like, wait a minute. Look back at those guys from the '60s and '70s. They look like Colin Firth. You look at guys like Roger Moore. You look at guys like Patrick McGoohan from The Prisoner, or the guy who played John Steed on The Avengers, whose name is escaping me at this moment. But I mean, they were even Michael Caine back then.
Michael Caine.
These were guys who were.
Are we about to have a Michael Caine off?
I don't think I could compare, unfortunately.
But they were these classy, very British, but also like kind of lanky guys who were they looked good in suits. They weren't big buff guys who were punching people all the time.
And I understand this isn't a James Bond podcast, but I feel
It
like
should be though.
It could be. It's and
Pretty
with
sure
this.
Matt Gorley and Matt Meyer already have that
That's true.
corner.
That's true.
Yeah, but I mean, with this graphic novel and this
Crossover.
movie, it's not an issue. I don't think to bring it up.
No.
John, you and I have talked
they-
about my
yeah.
opinions on this before. That Sean Connery looks really good doing all of his stunts, and you feel like he could pull it off, but he doesn't look
He was
as
the
good
physically imposing
in
one.
a suit as much as like Roger Moore is the suave debonair. But the stunts he pulls off, and I know it's the 70s and the stunts are a little more far fetched. Even as a kid, you watch and you're like, he couldn't jump on those crocodiles. He couldn't.
Oh, I didn't care. I didn't care.
I
though.
mean, you love it, but like, there's
Every
part of your
second.
brain that is like, he can't.
That's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
why I like Brosnan so much, because I feel like he
does
does a little bit of
both.
both.
And
Yeah.
I really
the
like
general
Brosnan.
consensus among Bond fans is that Brosnan is the best of Moore and Connery put together into one person.
However, you talk to most people and they don't care for Brosnan.
And I don't understand that.
I mean, with the exception of his fourth movie, which he's great in, but his
there's
fourth
good
movie,
stuff in it, but yeah, it's trouble. It's trouble.
I
for
really enjoy. Yeah, I really enjoy Brosnan.
Me too.
Who couldn't drive a stick shift that entire movie franchise? Do you know that he's faking it every single time they have him in a car?
really?
It's a fake shifter, and he's just like,
I mean, they're not
moving it around willy nilly.
I mean, in most movies, they're not driving.
yeah, but he couldn't. I'm just saying, like for James, that's a
Yeah.
Anyways, but I feel like this was great because Colin Firth, you think at first glance he can't pull it off, and it works for his character. Like people in the pub who are going to beat him up, they have no idea what he's
Yes.
capable of. But in that movie, Colin Firth looks like he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, he was
Do
on.
you think this movie could ignite some kind of shift in Colin Firth's career,
A
like,
Liam Neeson style?
like a Liam Neeson
He's
style?
going that way. I feel like.
You think so?
Listen to me carefully.
Listen to me very carefully.
Yeah, I mean,
They're in a movie together.
Oh,
well, what's great
Taken
is
four.
What's great is he's in all of
the Firth.
He's in all of my. That'd be the Firth movie.
Yeah.
They run together.
Oh,
But he's in all my mom's favorite movies.
Yes.
And now maybe he can be in all my dad's favorite movies.
Right,
This is
right.
great. He can bridge the
'Cause,
gap.
I mean, there's
of
no
all
question.
These...
He's
finally
the
heal their marriage.
He's
Whoa! What? I wasn't insinuating that at all. I just said
mean,
that my dad sleeps with my mom's movies, and my mom leaves the house, and my dad watches his movies.
Yeah,
It works very well.
But I mean, prior to this, probably his most famous part is as Mr. Darcy in the BBC Pride and Prejudice miniseries.
There's a lot of similarities.
This is a very Darcy-like character.
He was
well,
also
in
in
Pride and
Mamma
Prejudice
Mia.
and Zombies, he's like this.
Also, Mamma Mia, which we
Yes, Mamma
probably shouldn't
Mia,
bring
but I
up
mean
too
Bridget
much.
Jones. I mean, he's a romantic comedy guy. He's a guy that the ladies swoon for because he's a sweet, charming man.
I think they could probably still do a little swooning, John.
Oh sure,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, this
But I'm
movie
saying
still.
This
the hair
movie-
maybe not so much.
But I'm saying
the hair is a little.
they swoon for him
janky.
because he's charming and nice in these movies. He's always the nice guy.
I'm just saying, I swooned for him a little bit in Kingsman. So
Oh yeah,
Sure,
we
who
all
didn't?
were swooning.
Who didn't?
We publicly say that we've swooned.
I believe they put a swoon warning on the beginning
Colin
of the film.
Firth, Hugh Jackman. There's some people that you just have to swoon.
But yeah, no. But I think that's true. This is definitely a complete reinvention of him. And like you said, the movie uses that to its advantage. People underestimate what this guy.
He's doing that
based on what he was.
fighting.
That scene.
They don't cut away from his face.
Can we
as he's
talk?
fighting.
Can we talk about the scene in the church?
The church scene, sure.
I don't remember that scene.
Oh,
what
the scene
what
where
happened?
he kills a whole church full of people.
He
How
kills
many
the
people
majority of that
approximately?
church.
Yes.
I mean, some of the other people I think probably killed each other, but for the most part, he kills like 90% of the people in that
We
church.
told you to go see the movie and read the comic book beforehand, but if you pressed forwards for some ungodly
we
reason,
do not need to do more spoiler alerts.
I'm not saying spoiler, but I'm saying when you say he kills a church full of people, that sounds awful without any context.
Yes. One of the things I love about it is, we should talk a little bit about the villain's plan. I mean, we're assuming people, of course, have seen the movie or not the comic, but I mean, the villain in both has a device that promotes aggression and removes inhibition, is what
Right.
Samuel Jackson says in the movie. So it just turns everyone into complete
Psychopaths.
Yeah, and they just kill each other without any
Which is a
regard
very
for anything.
Bond-esque villain.
It's a totally crazy madman with a super weapon plan, which I
Yeah.
also love. And
Yes, I do
he
too.
also has a sweet snowy mountain hideout. I mean, like this.
When we cut to the mountain hideout, I was just like, well, we're here.
Right. It's the Bond I grew up loving, the larger than life Bond. Everything is crazy and
that
cool. And no questioning of it. It's
No.
totally the norm in this world.
Yep.
And
you
that
have
complex
a base in a
feels-
volcano? Sure, of course you do.
It feels
Why
very
wouldn't you?
James Bond, like when you're running through that whole. There's like the row of cells, and there's all the
Armies
rock
of
cutouts
henchmen
of
in
tunnels.
uniform.
Oh, they're just all
It
pouring in from
feels,
everywhere.
yeah. This is great.
We don't know where they're coming from. It doesn't
At no
matter.
point do any of the henchmen go, wait, he's killing all of our dudes. Should we stop? No. All of
Nope.
the henchmen pile on.
Yep.
Yep. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. But yeah, so the church scene is the basically the test of this
Yes.
device.
In terms of like transforming Colin Firth into an action star.
In the comic, it's a beach full of newlyweds.
Right, and the none of the agent characters are present at that, which I think. So in this case, we get firsthand in the action of it, which I think was a lot better decision in the movie than in the comic, because you really the visceral feeling of that.
When Colin Firth exits that church at the end of that scene, his hands are literally covered in blood.
Yeah, and I think
There's
that's some other parts.
It was a
of it,
very
too.
visual, like, there is blood on his hands, quite literally.
He really plays the horror of that too. The look
Oh,
on his
yeah.
face. He does some great nonverbal acting there, where you see the like, my God, what have I done? Without him having to say that.
Because right before that, they say the line of "We only kill if it's necessary."
Right,
Like
they are gentleman spies. They only kill to save a
like
life.
moments
That's the line.
before
Yeah,
he says that.
yeah.
And then he just goes
they take-
crazy.
There's some line like, we only take lives to protect lives, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's that. Yeah, it's the license to kill kind of thing. But yeah, the church scene is. I saw Colin Firth on the Daily Show talking about how he had to go through months of training for the fight sequences in this movie. And that
Did
one
he do like a chunk of his own stunts? in
Sure,
this?
because I
Again,
mean, like,
you don't cut away from his face.
It's
Yeah.
almost an unbroken take.
And I was going to ask that about. I mean, maybe this is a brief sidetrack, but Eggsy.
Yeah.
There's that brief like.
What's that actor's name? We keep using all the other actors' names. except
I
for
believe
him.
it's Taron Egerton.
Well, it's because the other actors are Michael Caine
Yeah, I
and
know.
Mark Strong.
Samuel L. Jackson.
But he does that bit where he's
Or
leaving his.
Egerton. Yeah, I think Taron Egerton is the
He
pronunciation on that.
leaves.
First movie he's ever been in, by the way. He's never
Whoa,
been on
really?
screen before.
But I was going to
Damn,
ask if he has any
pretty good.
previous gymnastics or free running experience, because his parkour bit where he jumps off the balcony and things like that. Again, you don't cut away from his face for a majority of that.
Right. I mean, you can hide cuts too. I mean, when there's a way to do this in a kind of fun. I mean, like, not fun, but I mean, like a movie trickery kind of way.
Sure.
But I think a lot of it is them
As doing it.
I mean, he's never been on screen before, but from what I gather, he like just graduated from the most prestigious acting school in England prior to getting this. So I mean, he's not a newcomer to
Sure.
the concept. I mean, because
He's never seen
as
a
a leading man without having ever been in a movie.
Sure, and it works.
Yeah, I mean,
like a lot of times you'll get these untested young kids in these movies and be like, give them a couple of years. I'm sure they'll like warm up to the screen.
No, this guy instant
right out the
star.
gate. Yeah.
He's got the humor.
That
he's got
bit with the
concept,
Mark Strong at the end where he's just like, "You've been upgraded to my valet," and he's just like, "Oh, you cheeky fucker."
Yeah. And that's the other thing too. You've got a guy who's never been in a movie before playing up against some of the best British actors around.
Yeah.
You've got people like Mark Strong, Colin Firth, Michael Caine,
Yeah.
Sir
Samuel L.
Michael
Jackson.
Caine, Samuel L. Jackson,
One of
course,
the best British actors.
one of the great
He's
British
very-
actors,
yeah.
Sir Samuel L. Jackson.
He could be. We don't know. He could be
the
in
greatest
character.
acting ploy ever. Like
But I'm
right
saying,
before
like,
he
this
dies,
guy-
Samuel L. Jackson's go, "In truth, I was British the
Yeah.
whole time."
This guy holds his own completely.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he this is his movie. There's no question about it. It's being promoted as Colin Firth's movie, but it's
Well,
definitely
Colin Firth definitely has some
Yeah, but I mean, it's
acceptable amounts of screen time. John.
No. But but I'm saying
for
that-
my mom.
that the main character is Eggsy for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, the church fight scene is one of the best action sequences I've seen in a movie.
Yeah, and the use of music in that, like how it speeds up and slows down with the action, was just so cool.
Vaughn has a really good use of music, because I also love the whatever that pop song at the end was when he's fighting Gazelle, and it's going on and off depending on
Oh yeah.
the Samuel Jackson turning on the device. That's also really fun. Yeah, there's some really cool uses of music here, and he does it's very reminiscent of what he does in Kick-Ass as well. Like when he uses the Banana Split song for the when Hit Girl first shows up in Kick-Ass,
Yeah.
or the My Reputation song, Don't Give a Damn About My Reputation, at the end of Kick-Ass when hit
It's
girls
been a while
killing
since
away.
I've seen Kick-Ass, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It sets a really awesome tone.
Yeah,
Because it keeps it fun in a strange way.
Yes.
When he's taking out an entire church of people and it's the guitar solo from Freebird,
Right.
It's awesome because you want to get up in the theater and you want to dance to that solo while he's just slaughtering people.
Well, but the really smart thing was they're all terrible people.
Oh, yeah.
he makes it
Again,
clear it's a hate church.
I made this point earlier. It's like saying you killed a church full of people sounds awful without context.
Right. I mean,
it is a church full of like those hate-mongering
it's in like
Westboro
backwoods.
Baptists.
It's in like backwoods Kentucky who want to kill and think gay people are the coming apocalypse and stuff like that. So kill them all, man.
Which is a great ploy for the villain,
Oh,
too.
boy. We're going to get some... Sure.
They're gonna hate us anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the villain is testing out on a group of people that if that massacre happened at one of those places, people would just be like, oh, that makes sense. They were already like on edge.
That's true. It would go unnoticed.
Whereas in the comics, it's a beach full. It's like one of those mega weddings where there's 50 couples doing
about
it.
that. That makes a lot.
It stands out.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
I thought the point in the comic was like, if this works on people who are just literally got married, then it's going to work
They
on
talk
you.
right.
about
And
that.
the logic of that makes sense. But you're right about the covert nature of doing it in a backwoods church.
And the other thing they do in the comics, for the ending, as opposed, the ending of this is different than the comics.
Definitely.
And
I mean,
several
some of
ways.
the same beats.
Yeah, but I feel like it's pretty vastly different. And one
Yeah.
of the main things is at the end, the device doesn't have people kill people; it has them love people.
That feels very that feels
And that also
very Mark Millar to me.
Yeah.
but it would also feel very 70s Bond. Like they wouldn't have to have changed that to change the tone of the movie.
I don't know though. When I read that, I was like, nah, you cheeky bastard.
Really, you think so?
Yeah,
I just like. I mean, I it's very cheesy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I said, with all the other spy stuff going on, it wouldn't have been super out of place. And the idea that Mark Strong's character in the comics kind of just like, well, it's not even his character, but it's the equivalent tech guy is like, I just fixed your problem while you weren't looking. Where
But they added the cool thing about the biometric
It was
nature
awesome.
of it, that he can't hack it because there's a biometric.
Yeah.
So that is I mean, it's that cool screenplay thing of like every time you fix a problem, you have to put a new problem in front of it. So you just keep adding more walls to
and in the
whatever the
movie-
end goal is.
the movie, the Kingsman character hits the satellite, and
Right.
the comic misses it.
Well, the satellite's not there.
Oh, that's right. So he misses
Right.
it.
Yeah.
But
But in the movie, I want to see a satellite blow up.
Right.
exactly, and you get it, and then
And it's really cool.
instantly Samuel L. Jackson's character is able to just call up a friend and fix that problem,
Which is really cool because I love the very
We've got an hour.
well thought out nature of like, well, I'm a rich guy, I can just buy another satellite. Hey, buddy, let me get your satellite. Cool, that's it. Also, the thing with the little devices in people's heads that blow up. That's not in the comic either.
That was
No.
awesome.
The-
though.
the-
Well, that was so
Samuel
we could
Jackson.
have like a 2-minute montage of heads exploding.
Yes, which was very cool and super fun and fitting of the tone. This movie walks a really interesting line in its tone, and I feel like Guardians does in a similar way. This one,
I feel like this movie maybe had a bit more of an issue in terms of its fluctuating tone near the beginning of the movie. It comes together really nicely at the end, like where we kind of find a happy medium.
Yeah.
But in terms of bouncing back and forth between like, I'm not going to say gratuitous ultraviolence because I don't think it's gratuitous.
no, but it is ultraviolence.
Yes.
For sure.
And
I've seen that term used a lot in relation to this movie,
and
which
these
is
more
very
heartfelt
accurate.
moments.
Yes. Well, one of the things I feel I've seen people use the word send up or spoof several times. And
I don't think
that's not at all what's going on here. If anything, I mean, I would say loving ode to.
Yes.
Because they are legitimately making a like Roger Moore era James Bond movie.
I mean, if
In
somebody had
modern,
a jetpack in this movie, I wouldn't have blinked an eye.
they basically do. I mean, the balloon
Sure,
they
yeah.
they have the balloon thing, which is kind of a jetpack.
I love the reference to the Reagan Star Wars project.
Yes, it's a relic from that era, which is great because it's
They
an
still have
insane
around.
idea that you're gonna float on a balloon up into the up like to the edge of the atmosphere. They don't. They make it clear it's not. You're not going out of the atmosphere.
You can't.
because that would be silly.
Your balloons will burst.
We're not Moonraker, you know.
Let's try to avoid the Moonraker.
That movie is great until the last.
That
15
movie has
minutes.
one of my favorite Bond moments in it, which is when he's at the compound and they're out hunting, and there's the guy in the tree who's going to shoot him, and Bond aims at the like pheasant or whatever and fires and misses, and the guy's like, "You missed." He's like, "Did I?" And the guy falls out of the tree.
It's a
But
great
that's
movie.
before they go into space and it gets
Yeah.
crazy.
I was saying, like, the last 15 minutes of that
The
movie.
first 2/3 of that movie are a perfectly good James Bond.
And then it gets awesome because there's lasers.
It turns into Star Wars for no reason. I felt like that movie was a James Bond movie, and then at the last, then Star Wars came out, and they were like, "Quick, change the whole ending. We need to
we
rewrite
can send
this."
him into space. Let's give Jaws a love interest. That'll be great. Oh, come on.
Lady
You can't groan
Jaws.
too much.
I love Jaws, but Jaws is no longer a threat in that movie, and that makes no sense to me.
Well, unless the next movie would have been that woman being hurt, and then Jaws just goes ballistic.
And that I would like, but
Or
they don't do that.
Taken with Jaws.
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
He can't speak into the phone.
They just get mumbles into the phone, which is way more menacing.
Uh-oh. Click.
I think we made him
Just
mad.
shows up and bites him in half.
We thought we were doing with Liam Neeson.
He just bites the phone in half.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
my
eats
God.
metal, I think.
But yeah, I mean that
I'm
Jaws
sorry, this,
would not
this
be
got
out of
me
place
a little
in this
tangent
movie.
on Jaws. Like, I like a villain who's only capable of dealing with problems he can fit in his mouth.
Yeah. Like the original Jaws.
And the thing is,
like
His mouth much bigger.
much bigger.
And one of the things I like about this movie is the fact that it's a hard R. So it's taking the James Bond silliness to like kind of legitimate physical conclusions.
Yes.
Because I mean, in a Bond movie, you have Jaws. And Jaws is tearing people's throats out with his metal teeth, but they always cut away.
Sure.
In this movie,
Well, the
Gazelle is cutting people in half,
she
and you see
cuts
the
a
two
man in
halves
half,
fall.
which was so cool.
What you don't see is all the viscera spill out. So
Yes.
I
Well,
knew they,
and they
they
sew
drew a
him back-
line at some point.
The thing is, they sew him back together like his viscera didn't fall out.
They sew him
I
back-
always wonder if
I
it
love
should
that
like
idea. To
cauterized.
identify him.
I love the idea
cauterized
that the bad
wound.
guy sewed him back and sewed the two halves back together to be like, who is this guy? Let's see him. I don't know. He's two
Which
halves.
he's
right
a
now.
great actor, by the way. I'm
Yes, he
blanking on
is.
his name right now.
I can't think of his name either, but yeah, he's a really good
He
actor.
showed up and I was like, he's a perfect gentleman.
He's been in
spy.
a number of BBC productions.
he's in Pirates
and
of the
stuff.
Caribbean.
He's in Pirates of the Caribbean. He's a great British actor. I can't think of his name either, but
That one spy who died in the movie. He's a great spy.
Lancelot.
Right up until he's not.
Lancelot.
Yeah,
the
he's-
original.
I also love the beginning with the opening titles forming out of the rubble of
Yeah, that
a
was pretty
collapsing
cool.
building.
See, I thought that was really cheesy.
Really?
I was gonna make a comment about that, but
Really?
yeah.
I also love the you've got the like Taliban guys sitting there listening to the boombox, and then the helicopter comes up, and you have two agents hanging from ropes shooting people.
See, I
with
like
pistols.
that, but the
They're
fallen
not
rebel,
firing missiles at anyone. They just have agents on
Like,
the side.
there are helicopters with machine guns. No, it's just two guys hanging out the side with pistols.
Right, that feels very Bond. I mean, like right from the start of this movie, I'm just like, okay, I got it. I'm with you. I'm with you. What you're doing here?
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
What'd you guys think of the Samuel L. Jackson speech impediment?
I think it was mostly for that one joke near the end where it's like, you guys talk funny.
Yeah, I felt
think-
that way too.
I think it also fit that Bond tone because there's always something wrong with Bond villains.
sure.
They always have some kind of deformity or problem in some sense. And in this case, he's not physically deformed. He's just got a speech impediment.
This felt like
And
maybe
it-
an
and it-
idea that Samuel L. Jackson had, like
I don't
couple
think
of,
it's.
like,
I don't.
in meetings with
I don't
the
think
director
it's.
and writer and stuff, and then just
I don't think
went
it's.
with it.
Yeah. I think something came out of that. I also think they wanted some way to downplay how cool Samuel L. Jackson is to make him more of a nerdy character. I also think it's not overbearing enough that it like damages his performance.
No,
in
and
any
that's
way.
they were very smart to choose that to make him make him a little bit more
it's there, but
sympathetic.
it's,
Even
it's fairly subtle.
wonderful on lisp.
Right. Yeah,
I went a
and
bit
at no point
Igor
did I
there.
did I
That was
have
good.
trouble understanding him. Or I'm saying, like, if you don't like it, it's not omnipresent enough that you're going to be like, oh, what the hell
people
is he
behind
doing?
me, every time he spoke, laughed at
They
that.
loved it. Yeah, I mean, it totally
Every
worked for them.
single time. Just
Yeah, I love his
Okay.
whole character
The
design.
first few times.
The like the hat cocked to the side. The
He was a
like,
weird
glasses.
He was they were clearly like a play on Google Glass or something.
yeah. Because they never
Which
go into it. but
Samuel
they-
L. Jackson can't even make those look cool. It's never catching on.
No. I love the Kingsman glasses. Though.
Oh yeah,
Those
are
are
sweet.
very cool. And like the scene where they have the table of people and none of them are there. You have to put on the glasses to see them.
They do that a little bit in the comic as well.
There's the thing where they're in Times Square and he's
Right.
up on the screen and you can only see it if you're wearing the glasses.
Right.
super awesome.
I love stuff like that. I mean, the gadgets in this movie.
Oh my god.
I mean, that to me
That was a great return to form in terms of just seeing a spy movie with crap tons of gadgets.
In that interview, I keep referencing with Matthew Vaughn. He talked about seeing Skyfall, and Q has the line about like, we don't do gadgets anymore. And he said in the theater, he was just like, why? Why would you not want gadgets?
Gadgets are great.
He said, I don't understand how being a modern spy means you don't want a laser pen. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Like the umbrella. The functionality of the umbrella in this movie is so cool.
And that's
One,
a total,
there's like
that's a
9
total callback to like the old Avengers TV show.
Yeah.
That's a very John Steed kind of weapon, taken to the next level with the.
What did you say, Donovan?
Oh, I was just asking which of the umbrellas functions because it feels like there's about 9.
Yeah, I love the the
It
umbrella
can just kind of do. That's why
It's their multi-tool. It's perfect.
Well,
Right.
he's offered all those guns at the end, and he takes the umbrella because the umbrella can do everything.
well, it's bulletproof, so it's a shield. You can open up and shield yourself with it. It has a stun mode, which we see in the bar.
Stun mode, shotgun
And there's a
mode.
shotgun.
You've got bolas, electrified magnetic bolas that can
Yes,
shoot.
which is awesome. I also love the darts out of the wristwatch.
Oh, classic.
Which feels classic
Really
Bond.
cool.
Amnesia mode.
You know what I was
Yes.
just thinking?
The different modes it does.
What if you had an Avengers sort of throwback with those two main? Because you've got Eggsy and you've got the main Roxy.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting.
And that
For
could
those who
easily
don't
be the
know,
sequel.
we're not referring to the Avengers, the
No.
Marvel comic.
No.
Emma
We are referring to the
Peel.
old BBC series,
Yeah.
The Avengers, which really kind of set a tone for a lot of spy stuff.
true.
And I don't think enough people these days know it. Or
Unfortunately, we do not recommend the motion picture unless it's only Rafe Fiennes and Uma Thurman scenes.
I mostly
Those are great.
know about that movie because of the sad decline in Sean Connery's
And Sean
career.
Connery,
Right,
the Weatherman.
Right.
What
Right.
they-
Yeah. No, it's not.
Yeah, that's.
There were so many things right on the surface of that movie. We're not talking about that movie, but I will say that like they nailed Ray Fiennes and Uma Thurman were perfect for Steed and Peel, but that was not.
That's
the
where
movie
that's
to be
where it
made.
stopped.
Yeah.
That's literally where that movie
all-
stopped.
I mean,
all their
really.
scenes are brilliant. It feels like a different movie for those.
It
those
feels
brief
like the
scenes.
show where there's that banter between them that was great. I really wish I could remember the name of the guy who played John Steed because it was
I don't remember.
Diana Rigg was Emma Peel, and she was a Bond girl in On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh, we should reference that movie a lot, John.
Hey, she's great in that movie.
She is.
She is great in that movie.
She's all right in that movie.
She's one of the best Bond girls with the worst Bond.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I really like
You
her. a
think
lot.
so?
Yeah,
Patrick McNee.
Patrick McNee. That's him.
I can't.
And he was in a
agree
Bond
with you,
movie.
John.
He's in A View to a Kill.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
He's he's another.
We briefly talked about the Bond films not being too graphic. The one
Right, right,
exception
right.
would be License to Kill.
Are you Licensed to Kill
He gets
took
pretty-
some violence to the next level.
Not as
for
graphic
sure.
as the Kingsman.
No, but that was the first Bond to go into PG-13. That was the first one to get a PG-13 rating.
Somebody
was
gets
Licensed to Kill.
exploded in
Wasn't that the first one to exist after the PG-13 rating existed?
Living Daylights might have been the previous Dalton movie. I think.
Okay.
They still didn't know how to use that rating though.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, yeah, no, it's still PG. All the
Right,
other ones
but I mean,
are.
yes, a man's head does explode in License to Kill when they put him in.
Guy goes through
like
a
a
grinder.
barometric. Huh?
The guy goes through a grinder. too,
Benicio
doesn't
del
he?
Toro goes through
That's
like a
right.
grinding machine, yeah. And he has the single weirdest line delivery in movie history. In that, do you know about this? This is the scene
I don't-
when.
Oh,
do you know this?
John, I'm just saying I watched The Substitute last night, so...
Oh yeah. There's some weird. No. This is really weird. There's a scene where Felix Leiter has been captured by the bad guys, and they killed Felix Leiter's wife. And he's like, "What did you do with my wife?" And Benicio del Toro, who's like 21 in this movie, he just goes, "We sent her on a nice honeymoon," exactly like that. And you're just like, "What the hell just happened? Who let him speak like that?" It's as weird as his performance as the Collector.
Yeah, I thought they were the same character actually.
He, if left to his own devices, makes the weirdest choices as an actor, and I love it.
I would love to imagine that like they did that in one take and it was just like, no, it's good. Are you sure? Like Benicio del Toro saying, I can do it again. I felt like that one was weird. All the directors and everyone on set was just like, no, it's fine. Let's move
it's
on.
fine.
It was at the end of the day. Clearly, they didn't have time.
Yeah.
It was
for
a Woody
another
Allen
reshoot.
approach to it.
Yeah.
The Knicks game's on.
We're
Yeah,
done.
It's fine.
Good
we're
enough. Was it in focus? Yeah, we're fine then. No, so
Because that's one thing about the Kingsman movie I can say is that I don't feel like there were any really weak links in the cast.
no,
And
not
that's
at all.
like you rarely
Not at
see
all.
that in movies.
I mean, down to from the leads down to the smaller parts for sure. Everybody, I think did right. I mean, even you've got like the I don't know what else to call them other than English soccer hooligans, even though they don't talk about soccer necessarily.
They're in a pub, though, so you can assume.
Yeah, they definitely have
football hooligans.
But those guys could have gone down a bad path as well. It was sort of caricatures, but I felt like they were legitimately menacing in a somewhat realistic way. Particularly the main guy, who's the mother's boyfriend. Mm-hmm. I mean, God, you hated that guy. I hated that guy in the comic too.
Sure.
But I'm glad they cut out some of the stuff. And I feel like the comics. That was the side story I didn't care about as much. I feel like he goes back and he deals with them in school, but I felt like, all right, I feel like
the mother's more sympathetic in the movie than she is in the comic.
Totally.
Is that only because she's more attractive in the movie than she's drawn in the comic?
No. I feel like she's a little bit more. She's more of a victim in the movie. She feels a little bit more complicit in what's going on in the comic, and that could be that she's just meant to be drugged out and stuff.
Yeah.
I also like in the movie, or like in the comic, he keeps getting arrested and keeps getting bailed out. In this, it seems like it's the first time that's happened, at least to that level.
There's a
because
petty
it's
crimes
the first time
comics.
he's called in.
This is the first time he's run into a cop
Right,
car.
but it's also that something needs to make him use that favor, where he's constantly using Secret Service favors in the comic.
Now, in the comics, he's about to turn 18. Is that right? So there's this whole idea that if he doesn't get bailed out, he's going to have to.
He's older in the movie.
Answer for the crimes.
It seems like he's in his early 20s in the movie.
Yeah, well, because he's already been in the Marines and stuff. Like there's.
They take him in the Marines at like 12 in England, John.
That's how it works.
SAS recruiting right from middle school.
Yeah, it's
course,
like, okay. You still have freckles. Come on.
But no, so I think that also goes to making him more sympathetic as well. I feel like Eggsy's a more likable character, which we talked about a little bit before. I feel like all of that is
and
there's that whole like brief interaction we see between him and his sister. It happens twice, but it adds a level of just like this guy does care for his family and he wants them to do.
And then you also see that later with the dog as well, that he cares about this dog when Mike Caine asked him to shoot the dog. And I also love that moment with Colin Firth.
The only worrying thing about for me in that scene is we never see the female spy, what's her name, Roxy's dog after that point. So like Colin Firth says that it was a blank, you weren't going to actually kill the dog, but we never see her dog again.
It's like, do we trust him?
But there's no point where we would have seen the dog. So
sure,
I understand what you're saying.
I thought the dog was going to be
sequel. Come on,
I thought the dog was going to be in the weather balloon and blow up the.
Or just like
satellite.
confirm that the dog is alive. That's all I wanted.
Sidekick.
Yeah. I wanted the dogs to be their sidekicks.
That would be awesome.
Somehow the pug proves himself.
They want to do a sequel, so there you go.
It's like Cats and Dogs, but with the
oh god,
live action.
If we could not mention that movie, that'd be
which one? Now there are two.
There are two.
Good. I didn't know there was a sequel.
Well,
is Jeff
then you have
Goldblum
to
in both of them?
No, he's only in the first one.
Damn.
He's the only selling point of the first one.
For me.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum.
That's why you had to see it.
Dogs find a way.
That's right.
Is there anything else we want to talk about in relation to this movie? What else you guys want to? Other stuff you liked, or I mean, is there anything you didn't like about the movie? Is there anything
that was the thing? Is like I can walk away from this movie honestly saying, while it didn't make a huge. I'm not going to say it breaks into like my favorite movies all the time. It was a fun movie. I really enjoyed seeing it.
It's pure entertainment.
Oh
really.
yeah,
I mean, like,
it's a popcorn muncher.
But without being campy.
Yeah. Right? No, it's not campy. It's not like we said. It's not spoofy. It's not Austin Powers. I've seen a few people invoke Austin Powers. I'm like, what the hell movie are you watching?
Yeah,
this is
they
not
probably just
Austin
watched
Powers.
Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Right.
I would actually really compare this to Goldmember.
Yeah,
but I
you
feel
don't
like
see it, John.
I feel like prior to this, that's the only way you could even reference those old Moore era movies. But Vaughn has found a way to do it legitimately while also very much taking it into a modern sensibility at the same time, which is really cool to see.
But at the same time, it's one of those movies I always break down in terms of movie recommendations, whether or not I'd be willing to go see it in theaters. I think this is worth a rental. I don't know if it's necessarily worth ticket price.
I could see that.
I don't know. I mean, I would say
I enjoyed seeing it in theater.
I mean, John, you've seen it twice in theaters.
I have seen it twice in theaters. I mean, I think it depends on what you're looking for. If you're like me and you long for the return to the days of the Moore era Bond movies, then absolutely you must see this movie.
I would say this movie is really good. If you enjoy a slick action movie, you want to be really entertained, and you want to go out to the theater, go see this movie.
Yes, you will. You will enjoy this movie.
Yeah.
Like this is a fun time at the movies.
Sure.
So yeah,
But if you want to see this movie and you don't necessarily feel the overriding need to go out and to theaters, like this is going to be a solid Redbox rental.
Absolutely.
A couple months down the line.
I guess what I would say is no matter what way you watch it or when
Yeah.
you watch it, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
You're going to have a fun 2 hours. This is
I
not
just
gonna...
repped Redbox there, and I apologize.
Yeah, they have not paid us. So.
Well, I'm just saying they put Hollywood out of business, and you know I love that store.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Hollywood Video.
No, they put the town of Hollywood.
town of
out
Hollywood.
business.
It
Everyone moved
doesn't
out.
exist anymore,
When did
yeah.
that happen?
They just
Last
wiped
week.
it off the map.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't hear about
I
this?
slept all last week.
Yeah, it's not good. It's pretty bad.
Wow. You know, one thing
They turned off the sign. It was awful.
Oh,
They turned it off?
Yeah,
It's
just click.
lit up?
No.
no,
just
not
turned it
anymore.
off.
They
Wow.
just turned
it
it off.
folded down.
It folded down.
Just folded back down into the dirt.
Right.
The repo men just go and take the Hollywood sign.
Just a crane pulling out each individual letter. Oh no! Why?
Sorry, guys.
First the
one-
land, now
the-
this.
The one thing we do have to talk about
Yeah.
is how awesome is it to see a movie where Mark Strong is not the bad guy?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of another example where
Because
he's
in the
not-
comic book, the character he sorts of plays, like the gadgeteer type of character,
Yeah.
was one of the first ones you saw turn in
Yeah.
terms of
Yeah.
the Kingsmen turning out to be.
Right.
Some of them are bad guys.
Right.
And so when
I
having
think
read
just him, isn't it? In the comic?
that you
It's
that
kind
you
of
s-
implied that there's more of them.
Right. Well, I mean, sort of like the Michael Caine
Yeah.
thing. Michael Caine turns out to be the bad guy in this, and probably other people with him as well,
Yeah.
because he even offers Eggsy the chance to come with him.
Exactly.
does he do that in the movie? I don't remember him.
Yeah. Because he gives him the drink. Because remember, the poison's only.
That's right.
Doesn't
That's another
activate.
cool gadget in the movie where you make somebody take the poison, but it's harmless until you activate the pen.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite scenes as well when he's talking, and that's in the comic as well. The
love
poison
that
and the
he
drinks
uses-
that they flip the drinks.
I love that he uses his like street skills
Yes.
to
The
trick
sleight of hand stuff that you
yeah,
learn on
that's-
the
What's
street.
that over there?
Yeah.
Yep.
Which when he
It's very
did that,
Princess Bride. It's very
The
Princess
first time I
Bride.
saw it, when he did that, I was just like, "Oh my God, Michael Caine, what are you doing?" Just yes, these paintings are. How did you not see that as a trick?
Though
But I love
hearing
it.
Michael Caine say "fuck" was pretty great.
Yeah. Well,
You
it
fucking little bastard.
in that
Bleh.
sense, it also feels like the '70s again when he was in like British gangster movies like Get Carter, because he used to play like really nasty characters.
Yeah.
Like Get Carter's a great movie, or I mean any of those old British gangsters. You fucking bastard. Well, because he's that Cockney street guy. Or if you want to see a new cool movie with him, was Harry Brown, the
Ooh,
newer
Harry
movie.
Brown was good.
He is super badass in that movie.
But to see Mark Strong, whose character in the comics is bad, so
Yes.
the whole movie I'm expecting him to turn, and he literally never does. And he's,
No,
he's one of the comic reliefs.
I,
in that, a lot of ways.
I've described him as a more badass Q.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's really.
You never
cool.
see Q shoot like 6 guys in a row.
I love that
moment,
parachute bit too. When he's
Yes.
like, yeah, come say that in my ear, and then you just
When that happened, I was like, he's not going to be evil in this movie.
Oh, that was your point?
Yeah, because you could see that bond between them in that way that I really don't think
That
they're going to be
Bond?
Yes. Almost
See,
as
I
great
didn't-
as Roger Moore's autobiography, which is called "My Word Is My Bond."
Ooh.
awesome. No, I didn't get any sense like
That was when I was just like, okay, they're really developing this relationship in a radically different way. Than
I
the
thought they
comic.
were going to turn it still. I thought that was going to be the big like, oh no, this whole time you were
Yeah.
the chosen one.
right.
You're
No.
my brother.
You're supposed to bring balance, not destroy it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
I don't know. I just saw there was such trust there that I didn't feel they were.
Thank you
gonna
for
break
taking that all the way.
and I was really glad they didn't, because
Can't
Mark
quote
Strong
Star Wars
is
at me without going all the way.
Of course.
Mark Strong is one of my favorite actors. Actually,
He's so good. And I'm not complaining that he's a bad guy because
No, he's a great,
amazing.
great bad guy. You look
He
at like
is-
Sherlock Holmes or
even in Green Lantern, his Sinestro is what you want Sinestro to be.
he was a perfect Sinestro in that movie. Really, it's just unfortunate that movie was
That
not
the
good.
rest of that movie was
Yeah.
garbage.
Yes, but then you get him in Kingsman, and he's like, yeah, I think your description of him as a more badass Q is like
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, because there's a lot of very Q-like scenes with him.
Oh, yeah.
especially when he's talking over the comm with him and stuff.
Oh, I love some of those moments.
Yeah,
He's a weird combination of like the professors from Harry Potter and Q.
this movie is kind of Harry Potter for spies in kind of a way.
Well,
and it
that
feels
was part of
first
the movie
class,
I
too.
liked about part of the what I liked about the movie so much was that it had more of a and I talked about this a little bit, that it had more of a focus on the training and like the coming up through the ranks and becoming the spy, rather than just these quick cuts that the comic book has of like mission, and I'm a spy now.
No, you really watch him earn that and learn that ability, so that when he's flipping over guys and shooting people at the end of the movie, you're like, yeah, because you went through the process with him and you saw him go from zero to hero in that kind of that classic movie kind of sense.
Something I just put together in my brain.
Good work, brain.
Yeah, I usually put it together in other things like my liver, but that's a lot slower. And there's the union talk and everything. But you get this kind of castle that they go train at in First Class, and also in this movie. Is it the exact same location?
I don't think it is, but it's very, very
because
similar.
they roll up on that. I was like, oh man, they're going to meet Xavier.
Yeah. No, it looks like the Xavier.
But I mean, Matthew Vaughn directed.
Well, and for X-Men First Class,
so that's just his castle. That
It
he
could.
uses for his movies.
I'm legitimately asking it. Does he have like some best friend that lives in that castle? And he's like, well, whenever you want to come over, just use the castle, blow up.
He used to produce Guy Ritchie's movies. Maybe that's Guy Ritchie's castle.
That's very possible.
Guy Ritchie's got a lot of money. He's got that sweet Sherlock Holmes money.
That's right.
And he's making an espionage movie that comes out this summer called The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh man, talking about adaptations. Good lord.
I mean, even First Class had a Bond influence. I feel like X-Men First Class. The Kevin Bacon character very much felt like a Bond villain with his submarine hideout.
First Class and Kingsman feel kind of similar in a lot of ways. The training stuff they go through.
That they were directed by the same guy.
Yeah,
I feel like
even
Matthew Vaughn
tonally
mixed Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class. It's like those last two movies kind of merged into one thing to become Kingsman.
I think it worked really well.
Very much so. I mean, we can talk about his very first movies when he discovered the guy who's James Bond now. Layer Cake.
Yeah. Oh man, I love me some.
That was him.
Yeah, that was his first film was Layer Cake. When he took a chance and gave the lead to a guy named Daniel Craig, who was like a British character actor.
Anything.
Yeah, and he said, I think this guy could be like an action lead.
And so it was.
And then, like a couple months after that movie came out, he gets cast as Bond. This is what he does. He also, this is very cool.
So are you saying right now that Egerton's going to be the next James Bond?
No. Well, not necessarily. But this guy has an amazing eye for talent because he made a movie called Stardust. It was his second film after Layer Cake, which is a really cool movie based on a Neil Gaiman book.
Yep.
Mark Strong.
We are talking about the same.
Mark Strong is the bad guy in that movie.
Yes. He's in most of Matthew Vaughn's
He's not
movies.
the bad guy in that movie.
Yes, he is.
He's a unfortunate character in that movie. The bad guy in that movie is Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, but he works with her.
Michelle Pfeiffer is the bad guy.
No, he doesn't.
Doesn't he?
Not really. He's kind of bumping off royalty, and then he dies and then sword fights while he's dead through Michelle Pfeiffer.
It's been a while since I've seen that movie, but I remember him being a villainous character in that for some reason.
He's not. You don't love him.
Yeah. But anyway.
He's got long hair.
Anyway, he made that movie.
I'm usually the one supporting the villains around here.
He made that movie, and that movie starred a young British actor named Charlie Cox, who is now Daredevil.
Oh, snap.
Yeah.
Whoa. The main character
in Stardust is the guy who's playing Daredevil on Netflix's Daredevil.
Robert De Niro?
Yes, Robert De Niro is playing Daredevil. In the weirdest, like 70-year-old Robert De Niro is going to slap on the red leather outfit.
Ooh, I do not think he could pull that off.
He could pull off the old attorney, I bet, but the
yeah. And then furthering his eye for talent, of course, he finds Aaron Taylor Johnson for Kick-Ass. Now he's Quicksilver. And in X-Men First Class, he had to fight tooth and nail with the studio to cast Jennifer Lawrence in that movie.
Really?
Yes.
So what you're
I'm
saying,
calling it. This guy is going to be the next big thing because Vaughn's eye for talent is insane. He just keeps finding these cool
watch.
people.
He's gonna like kill somebody and just go completely off the rails.
He was up for Cyclops in X-Men Apocalypse. He didn't get it, but he was one of the people considered for it. Because I think Fox is very impressed. And you can't not be impressed. He's so, like I said, there's such confidence. It seems like he's been a movie star forever, really.
Or at least this isn't his first movie.
No, it's
like when you said it was his first movie, I was honestly shocked. I thought it was just been in things that I hadn't seen.
He is at such ease carrying this film.
Yeah,
he had literally never seen a movie before this movie.
That's true.
Is that what you said earlier, John?
That's exactly what I said. He's never even.
He had no idea what that
was. The
was.
concept of it. Yeah. This is also the first movie for the actress who played Gazelle.
Oh,
she was a dancer.
Yeah. So Summer Glau route.
Yeah, she was a little bit different kind of dancer. She was a backup dancer for Madonna, but
Either way, ballerina, backup dancer for Madonna, they both teach you how to kill people.
I mean, I think you needed somebody. I think you needed somebody with that kind of background to play
one
this
of the
part.
Russian mob, and the other was Madonna. That makes sense.
Hey, Madonna has people in her way that need to be removed.
Sure.
Who do you think takes care of those problems? The backup dancers.
Yep.
She's not going to get blood in her perfect hands.
No.
There's also those cones. Those cones, I
Yes.
think, might have been weaponized.
Well, that would be very Bondian if they were.
Yes.
Well, no, that's Machete Kills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Lady Gaga, different pop star entirely.
And that was Sofia
That
Vergara
was,
right. Who had the machine gun bra in that movie.
Right, I apologize.
But Lady Gaga is in that
Inspired
movie.
off the live action Lady Gaga machine gun bra that was, I believe, was last week in New York. Is that right?
Probably.
Did I read that?
don't know.
I didn't read about Hollywood, but I read about that.
Yes. Well, that's good. That's no, you're keeping up with
Because
some news.
you're reading BuzzFeed, you're not necessarily reading BBC.
Are there other websites? There's
No,
Facebook
just the two.
and
There's a
BuzzFeed.
there's a couple. There's a couple other ones.
Couple of websites.
Yeah, just a few.
Do we have a
give it-
website?
We'll see. We're waiting. We're waiting for clearance.
That's pending.
Yeah.
All right.
We're waiting to get a license for that. That's how that works, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Our license is pending.
Need the internet seal of approval. Al Gore needs to double check it and make sure it's okay.
The
Yes,
elders of
yeah.
the internet.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Al Gore, Wozniak, they all need to go over
Sure.
things.
So I think overall we are very much in favor of the movie.
Yeah. Do we want to have some weird arbitrary rating system that our podcast has, or
Oh,
we
1
just
out
want
of
to say
7.
it was good?
1 out of 7
1 out of 7.
and a half. 1 out of 7.5.
Okay, I'd give it 5.842 out of 7.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a 5.4. I think
I'll give it a solid 6.
Okay, okay.
it was.
So,
It was very enjoyable.
It's a very,
6 out of
very
7.5?
enjoyable movie. Let's keep this rating system. Remember, it's out of 7.5, and not specify what. Is what I
Sure,
love as
sure,
well.
sure, sure.
It could
just
be anything.
Out of 7.5
Cups of
Yeah,
tea.
I'll give it a 6. I'll give it a 6 out of 7.5.
bottles of beer on the wall.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, go out and see Kingsman. You're gonna have a good time.
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun, and let us know if you agree or disagree with us. I guess.
Sure.
But kindly,
Very
Either way.
kindly, very kindly.
Respectfully,
We're
Yes.
sensitive.
like a gentleman.
And the places you can do that, of course, are you can follow us on Twitter at Panel on Panels.
Tweet at us.
Yeah,
We dare you.
We are.
Give us a 140 character review of this movie.
We're also Panel on Panels on Facebook, and you can email us panelonpanels@gmail.com. So we'll get that out of the way as we turn things over to our recommendation segment.
Recommendations. I don't want to have a song for this part. I really don't. That was a mistake. I apologize.
Too late. Just going to pull out that audio of what we
Sure.
just did and play it every time.
Oh, God.
Because that would not be horrible at all. If somebody wants to make us a recommendation song.
No, just
No,
John,
please do.
Stop, please.
Please do.
A recommendation song?
Yeah, that'd be cool if somebody wants to send it in. I'm not going to make
Sure,
it. If
fine.
somebody wants to make it, I'm not promising I'll use it, but I'll listen to it.
All right. Fair
It
enough.
will be listened to and probably appreciated.
And if it's good, we will give you no money for it.
Absolutely
and
not.
Love
And we'll
you forever.
consider crediting them.
Consider.
It's a possibility.
Wow.
Donovan, what are you recommending to people this week?
You know, it's a oldie but goodie. Batman: The Return of Bruce Wayne by Grant Morrison.
Yes.
Have both of you read this?
Well, it's part of
You-
it's
you-
part of a much larger.
it's
Sure.
the stuff that happened post Infinite Crisis, yeah?
Yeah. So
Final Crisis.
Final Crisis.
Well, there's so many crises.
So
John, I lose track.
if
There's
you
a lot
haven't
of
read
crises.
Final Crisis, stop listening. But Batman gets.
Okay, I'm going to stop listening now.
Have you've read Final Crisis?
You're at least familiar with the fact that
I am
Batman.
aware that it happened and that Batman got shot back in time.
Yes. So this
And that
is
Superman punched the universe.
yes. So this The Return of Bruce Wayne.
Batman shoots Darkseid with a time bullet as well.
Right.
Exactly. So this is Batman working his way back through time to modern day Gotham. So you get Batman the caveman, Batman the outlaw in the West,
Pirate,
pirate,
witch hunter,
witch hunter.
witch hunter, I think
And
is my favorite.
the
Noir detective.
The noir detective is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And he kind of acquires like the first one he acquires his brutality, the second one his
Yeah.
like leadership skills. You know, you kind
all
of
the
go
things he
through
needs to be Batman.
the outlaw, and then he comes back and it's awesome.
I mean, the first page of the first couple pages of that comic are really cool, where you have all the cavemen gathering around the cave, and then Batman walks out of a cave. Like,
and he's just got his bat belt in his hand.
he's got his shirt and mask off, and he's holding the belt, and it's just like, what the hell?
It's super
It's
awesome.
Grant
2001
Morrison.
all of a sudden.
It's Grant Morrison craziness.
Anyways, I really enjoyed it.
It's a fun
because
comic.
you don't get the thing I like is you don't get a lot of like fantastical storylines for Batman. I mean,
That's
I know
true.
his
That's
villains
true.
are kind of crazy and exciting, and the plans to destroy the world he takes care of are awesome, but you don't get like sci-fi elements in Batman a lot. You don't get the
right. You do when Grant Morrison's writing.
Exactly, and I really enjoy that. So that's my recommendation. It's a couple years old. Read Final Crisis first, and then pick that up.
Well, I mean, there's a whole Final Crisis to there's Batman R.I.P. to Final Crisis to Battle for the Cowl, and then you've got the whole Dick Grayson as Batman stuff. I mean,
so much Batman.
Battle for the Cowl is great, too.
And then this leads to Batman Incorporated.
That didn't really stick around all that long, did it?
Batman Incorporated?
It still exists technically in the comics. They just don't deal with it a ton.
Until DC scraps all of their shit yet again.
Currently Batman Incorporated still exists.
I was talking to somebody in a comic book store last week.
Okay.
I know.
Different.
I occasionally go there.
The nerd equivalent of a bar.
We have they said yet that they
John,
are...
we live in Portland. There are nerd bars.
There are nerd bars.
There are lots of nerd bars.
But I'm saying, like, the social aspect of it is
But we were
traditionally
talking,
what you might consider
did
a
DC,
bar.
when they said that they're kind of finishing up the New 52, or they're rebooting things, did they say that they were canceling it? Because he brought up the idea that with Marvel, with 616 and the Ultimate Universe, you could potentially have two different...
No, it's blowing up.
It's blowing up completely?
Yep. It's all going to be one continuity. So
all right.
We,
thank you. Yeah. And then that will all be no longer...
We don't know what it is, really.
Wow. That's
they're going to blow a bunch of stuff universe. Up, and then we're going to...
that's true. They're trying to line it more with the MCU.
Maybe. I don't know.
Come on.
The DC stuff is trying to line up with the...
I think DC and Marvel are both trying to do that.
We'll see.
Okay.
Grigoni, what do you got?
I have a webcomic, John.
Oh, okay.
I know we don't talk about the internet comics all that much on this podcast, but I would like
what?
Not all of us.
Internet comics.
Is this the interneting inside of a bathing suit? Is that what we're talking
the
about?
Internet.
I just logged onto my internet. Simpsons jokes.
Yep.
But yes, I would like to represent the webcomics because I feel like they are underrepresented in conversations about comic books, and there's a lot of really good ones out there.
Yeah, I'm not doubting this.
I know. The one I'm bringing to the table this week is I can't call it a book because it exists on the internet, but I do have...
It is a book now, though.
Yes,
so,
I have several trades of it.
Call it that.
Called Goblins by Terrell Hunt. It's a great webcomic. It's been running for years now.
He's writer and artist?
He's the writer and artist. A lot of webcomics generally have...
Makes sense.
Yeah. But it is basically, you've got the basic premise of like a D&D style world, but our main characters here are the lowliest of enemy types, which is the goblins. And we look at things from their point of view.
Cool.
And like how they deal with adventurers, like pillaging through their camps, killing their people, and stealing all of their treasure, and like having to deal with being the lowliest of the low in a world that quite literally looks down on you. It's a really fun comic, and I highly recommend it.
Very cool. I've got two. One is a Mark Millar comic. It's called Super Crooks.
How topical.
Yeah, I both of my recommendations are sort of tangentially related to Kingsman. It's called Super Crooks. It's by Mark Millar, and art is by Lionel Yu, who did a bunch of the Ultimate stuff. And it's pretty simple. It's Ocean's 11 with superheroes.
I'm fine with this.
It is a very cool, slick heist movie that Mark Millar, I've heard him talk about, does not understand why it's not a movie. He kind of wrote it being like, of course this should be a movie.
And nobody at any studio was like, what?
Not yet. Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe Matthew Vaughn needs to do it. He can just make a career out of doing these Mark Millar adaptations.
Seems to be working out so far.
The other book I have is an image book that's, if you like the kind of espionage stuff, it's called Deadly Class. It's by Rick Remender and Wes Craig.
I do love Rick Remender.
Yeah, it's set in the 1980s, and it's about this kid who gets recruited to an assassin high school.
Oh, fun.
So it's John Hughes meets killing.
John Hughes meets killing.
Is that what it says in the back?
No, I can't think of any like other filmmaker that it's specifically like. Maybe because it's not like John Woo. I don't, something like that. But it's got that Hughesian like teen angst. And the thing is, the school is split up into the cliques, but they're all like you've got the Yakuza kids and you've got the Russian mob kids,
the Italian mobster kids.
right. And then you've got the weird outcast goth killers and stuff like that. It's very cool, but it's So.
What is this book called?
It's called Deadly Class. It's set in the 1980s. So it's interesting. Remender's talked about how it's his most personal book, most autobiographical book. And I'm just like, what happened to you, Remender? Where you been, man?
I was listening to a small stint on a podcast I really like. It's Brian Posehn's Nerd Poker, where he's playing Dungeons and Dragons, and apparently him and Rick Remender are good friends. So Remender was on there playing D&D with him, and good lord, that man's sense of humor is.
This comic is very much that kind of feeling because
Yeah.
there's a very dark humor undertone, but it's a cool book. So yeah, it's
I'll have to
a
check that out.
classic teenage high school story, but
Where everyone's killing each other.
but they're assassins.
Are the students killing each other? So is it
No.
kind of
They're
Okay.
being trained to kill other people.
Gotcha.
Because they're all being trained to be assassins for whatever their
Do they still have to go to English
separate
class?
organizations. No, it's more like poisons class
Okay.
Oh,
and
right.
like sniper rifle class and
Sure.
stuff like that. You know,
if this school had been around during Harry Potter, they could have taken care of Voldemort just like that.
How did
I've always said, why didn't the American wizards show up with like a 50 cal, just like sniper rifle, 2.5 miles away, Abracadabra this motherfucker.
It's just red mist at this point.
I feel like if you know that there's a Dark Lord threat, just train him in the dark arts. Just train these kids. Like, don't waste time with levitation class. Like, just go for it.
It's like
true.
you're gonna have to need to
It's
kill some snake-faced motherfuckers in the future.
Yeah.
Be ready.
Oh, wait, now everybody's prepared. Take on a whole school, Voldemort. He who must not be named.
You just did.
I know.
Oh.
Do you know that
There's not
the
gonna be
T
more
is
episodes of the
silent? The T is silent?
Voldemort.
He's supposed to be...
Voldemort?
Yeah. I think, it's some French word that means, like, Black Death or something like
How'd
that.
that work out for every movie ever made of Harry Potter?
Well, I don't think...
Is this like the Ra's al Ghul debate?
Yeah, I mean, that's what Rowling said that she initially... It's Voldemort.
Huh.
But we just...
It's like her quietly being, actually.
And I want to say...
Voldemort.
This is why the authors need to be around when they produce the audiobooks. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and the cool thing is, in the French adaptation,
Uh-huh.
there's like that whole Chamber of Secrets. His name gets jumbled up, and it's like, oh my gosh, this person is actually Lord Voldemort.
Right.
Well, to make that phrase work in French, I believe his middle name is Elvis because they had to use those letters for whatever that translation was.
Tom Elvis Riddle.
It's something to that,
So that is great.
It's Elvis.
That's what he does on the weekends. He goes to Vegas.
Abracadabra.
Hey,
Harry Potter.
Cruciatus curse.
There you go. Harry Potter it could have been an Elvis movie. back
Oh
in the day.
man,
That would
I'm just
be-
imagining
Viva Los Hogwarts.
Ralph Fiennes in sequins.
that's all of my dreams.
He's game for it.
Sure.
Whatever. He's a pro. All right. So I think that's going to do it for this week on Panel on Panels. I'm John Campbell.
I am currently Mike Gergoni.
And I will always be Donovan Eilert.
Keep reading comics, everyone.